JV here with the Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association, Reasonable Doubt here along with on the Zoom, Justin Harris. How are you?
What's up, man? I can't see you.
Good to see you. We saw each other in court today. That's a good deal.
Yeah, we did.
Hey, so, you know,
I heard you busted a panel, but you picked like your 23rd jury or something since COVID.
No,
23rd,
I think, no.
33rd.
This would be something like, this would be the 10th or 11th jury that we've, I can't say sat because we didn't seat them, but we'll say.
Right. Voir dire you have conducted.
Correct. And we've busted 2 panels. So I want to say this was seating of jury number 10. No, voir dire number 10, sat 8, verdict to 7, something like that.
All right. All right, man. That's definitely a record. No one's come close to that, I don't think.
Well, I think one of the prosecutors out there is Day. I think he's at 9 or 10 as well.
Day Kim?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he's at 9.
Wow.
What do you think about Day?
Good guy. I just actually got an email from him like 5 minutes before we went on air.
Oh yeah, was his answer was his answer no?
No, my answer is going to be no.
Yeah, there it is. So we busted a panel Wednesday, and so then today we were supposed to seat one in the 179th, and I was like, Judge, well, we busted a panel, but so Judge Anastasio in the 184th says, you guys are still in trial, so you guys, if anybody else wants you, you're already taken. So I go into the 179th this morning and say, sorry, Judge, busted a panel, but sorry. And she goes, no, if you remember, you're still in trial in this court on a retrial from like 2 weeks ago, and I didn't release y'all, so you guys are seating the jury tomorrow. And I said, oh, no, defense ready, right? Yeah. You want some of this? Let's go. No, and then so I text Edward Applebaum, and luckily he's in a jury trial in the 177th right now. So we're just going to pop in tomorrow and get a new date.
Okay.
The 180th in trial.
You're technically in 2 trials right now.
Not technically.
Actually.
Yeah, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, it's tough. Well, I mean, yeah.
You're a machine.
It takes a little bit of my soul every time, Justin. I give these people my soul.
The only man that can put 48 hours into one 24-hour voucher.
Did you see my voucher?
No.
Did you see my voucher?
I haven't seen any vouchers. I'm just saying, like, if anybody can do that, you should be able to, because you're technically or actually in trial in 2 courts at the same time.
Hey, you know, I guess if I'm simultaneously thinking, no, I couldn't do that. It'd be impossible. You know, I saw down where I'm from, I'm from Houston now. I've lived in this area longer than anywhere. But back where I grew up, we'll put it that way, there was a guy down there in the valley who billed. He was like the city attorney or the city manager or something, and he billed. I think it was one of them small cities down there. I think it was Wessico. Like 60 hours in like one day. You know? It's like,
whoops.
Yeah, whoops. Sorry about that. I think he was eventually indicted.
Yeah, that won't work.
And you were putting up a good fight today.
Oh, I don't even want to think about that one.
You know, okay.
Hey, so, Mark, is there any way I can see JV?
Yes.
I'm just reacting to Mark's reaction to our conversation. Oh, there he is.
Yo.
Yeah. So yeah, man, that was a tough.
One of the big problems I'm having with the new court, is it 482nd? Is that what it's called?
Sure.
42nd,
that's
right?
The new court. That's the new court.
You know, a lot of the individuals that have been moved to that court came from courts where appearances weren't required.
Yeah.
And
Tell me about it.
man, I'm out there begging. I'm like, Judge, my client messaged me last night and was like, hey, do I got to come to court? And I was like, how many times do I have to tell you, you don't have to
Right.
come to this court? And then in the morning, I checked the docket and I'm like, oh, snap. That's the one that got
It's in the
moved.
42nd.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so then I'm up there and saying, Judge, hey.
That doesn't have Zoom.
Yeah, there's
Like the
no
TV. I
Zoom.
don't
You
even
got to
think
be
the
there
TV's
in
turn on.
person. I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And
They're gonna have like the smallest docket. Whoever inherits that bench and becomes the presiding judge is gonna have like the smallest docket because whatever 1/22 they got has been just gonna be like whittled down to nothing.
I think we can check the size of the dockets online. I think it's public record. Let me see.
Should be.
But should docket sizes really matter?
No. Shouldn't numbers shouldn't dictate, at least court numbers shouldn't dictate justice, right? I think that if you're gonna look at numbers, I sound like a broken record railing on intake in the Harris County District Attorney's Office, but if you're gonna look at numbers, look at case filings and arrest records and charges that are being filed. And if anything, pit that against like population numbers. Either to determine trends in crime or prosecutorial style accepting charges. But I don't think their numbers should be crunched by bean counters or politicians or anything. And that's exactly what happens. Because what the judges see is the easiest way to resolve a case. And I tell my clients this, the fastest way to get your case over with is to plead guilty. But there's only 3 ways to resolve a case. The state can dismiss it, the defendant can plead guilty and waive all their rights, or they can go to trial. Trial's usually the slowest one, which will sometimes reap a dismissal, sometimes result in a decent plea offer for a plea of guilty. But no, I think looking at case numbers and holding judges accountable just based on those kind of numbers is not a good way of analyzing justice.
Well, 2 things. I take exception to you calling us bean counters.
We're not it.
Number 1.
It's the people over in the county auditor's office and the secretary's office.
Well, who exactly did you mean by bean counters, Justin?
Oh, not you.
Oh yeah, my people? My people?
Sure, the people from North Brazoria County.
Oh, look. Okay, so I pulled this up on FDAM's into interweb. This is as of August 2021. Active cases pending. Currently in jail, the 184th, the 452nd. Oh, look at that. Hold on.
452nd.
Yeah, that is. Oh, no. That's the number of people in jail. Sorry, in this court. Yeah. I was like, I've never heard of that court. So currently, the 184th, interesting. Judge Anastasio has almost the lowest people in jail, 452 individuals in jail. The actual court that has the lowest jail population is the 351st at 445.
Wow.
So Judge
like
Nata
7
Cornelio,
people?
which we've had on the show, her jail population is 445 and is currently the lowest in Harris County. Close second there is Judge Anastasia in the 184th with 452. See, but interestingly, let's talk about
Who has the most?
The most cases in jail are 1,172.
Wow.
Wow, that right? So let me see. Hold on.
You're reading the numbers, not me. This is as of August, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was no 482nd as of August. The 482nd came to existence on September 1st.
Right, and there's no data on that one. There's no data.
What court has the 1,100 some odd people in custody?
1,172 is Judge the 338th.
I was gonna guess that was the one.
Judge 338th.
What's the second most?
The second most
leap between those two.
coming in at the second place is 862,
There's
which
that much of a gap. So there's a gap of 7 people between the 351st and the 184th, and there's a gap of 300 plus between second most and most.
and
Wow.
so
And the laws are all the same in all those courts, right? The penal code applies the same, the code of criminal procedure, the Texas Constitution, the United States Constitution, all applies the same in those courts. That's a pretty decent disparity.
I wonder if it has anything to do with, we know the 338th was all Zoom for forever. And I wonder if that had anything to do with it. No?
Well, we also know that the 338, right? She's been under
some scrutiny, right?
some scrutiny even by the Judicial Ethics, or the Commission on Judicial Conduct, for bond revocation practices, right?
Yes.
And had some cases appealed there.
Yes. Sorry, I was looking at the stats. Kobe DeBose is in the house.
What's up, Kobe? What's up, man?
He says, "All hail Judge Nata." That's good. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, I sat there and said we shouldn't judge a judge or a court by their numbers, and we're doing that right now. But I do think that looking at that kind of cross section of, persons in custody and persons on bond and all that is one thing. Because I mean, there's like 8,000 people in the Harris County Jail approximately, and you're telling me that over 1,100 of those are in one of the 38 different criminal courts?
Yes.
More than one in 8 people in the Harris County Jail are in there out of one of 38 different courts. Now 39 different courts.
Well, when you put it like that.
Yeah, that's like your numbers and statistics for the ratio of cases you tried during COVID. 1 in 8 cases. Tried by J.V. Vela.
Hey, it takes a team, man. It takes a team. It takes a team. I'm merely the face.
Yeah, there's 3 JVs, right?
There's 3 of them. So on bond, who do you think has the most bond cases?
Well, I'm guessing the 351st, right?
Interestingly, you said that. The 351st, their bond cases is 2,217, and I believe they are currently fourth. So the most bond cases are the 338th with 2,285. They have most in jail, most on bond. Oh.
So it's just a big docket.
It's a big docket.
Wow.
And interestingly, Judge Anastasio has the lowest, comes in second place again with the lowest bond docket. So Judge Anastasio has the second place lowest jail docket, second place lowest bond docket. Guess who has the lowest?
Are just like moving cases pretty well. That's not a bad thing. One way or the other, however they're getting resolved. And Judge Anastasio is trying cases.
Dude, Judge Anastasio is a case trying machine.
Right.
Last week she did murder, then another one, and then me, and then the week before that another one. She is always in trial.
Yeah.
So Judge Robert Johnson is the leader in least amount of active bond cases.
How many does he have in custody?
635, which is about, it's about middle of the road.
Okay.
It's about middle of the road. So he has the lowest bond and middle of the road jails.
But he keeps his docket pretty clear too.
It's a pretty clear docket. I mean, it's, if you go into that court, like, the judge is going to do what judge is going to do. Like, I guess
I wish we could see I wish the numbers were updated, and I guess they will be in another maybe another day, maybe tomorrow. I don't know how those get updated, but see the 482nd and how that shifted things. Because if you got some courts that have like over 3,500 cases and some courts that have, under 2,000 cases,
Well, I'll tell you.
how many do they take into the 482nd?
There's no court has over 3,500 cases. The court with the most cases is the 338th with 3,457. And then you got a bunch of courts in the 2,000s. Then you start hitting 184 with 1,500, 177, 1,500, 351 is 2,600.
But that's my question, right? So when the 482nd was created, did they take the same number of cases from each court? Or did they take a percentage from each court?
I think it was supposed to be random. I've heard other things, but every court got a big chunk and just went, adios. That means see you later in Spanish. Kobe's saying, Morton, he's also saying, impossible to resolve cases in the 338th when they just reset everything to 2022. Speaking of that, it talks about the age of caseloads and the disposition of them. So between 0 to 30 days, only 7% of the cases, current active felony cases get disposed of. 7% of them. So total active felony cases in Harris County right now is 52,412.
Okay.
With each court on average holding 2,382 cases. 7% of them get disposed of within 0 to 30 days. Another roughly 7% get disposed of between 30 to 60 days. Another 7% get disposed of between 60 to 90 days. Another 6% of those get disposed of from 90 to 120 days. And then finally, you're getting 12% get disposed of between 120 to 180 days, so 4 to 6 months. And then 26% of them get disposed of between 6 months and a year. And then finally, 36% of them will finally end up getting disposed of 361 days or more. So 36, the average 36% of the time, or maybe I'm saying that right, 36% of the cases get disposed of in about a year.
Or more.
Or more. Or more. Interesting. The clearance rates, let's look at the clearance rate. The clearance rate measures the number of outgoing cases as a percentage of the number of ingoing cases.
This is on FDAMS? Did you have to log in to get this?
No, it's all public. It's straight up public.
Okay.
Clearance rate. Guess who has the highest clearance rate, coming in at 85%?
Abigail Anastasia.
The 178th, Judge Kelly Johnson, but there's an asterisk next to her. She's the administrative judge, so I think there's something written in the rules that she either accepts less cases or has a smaller caseload because she's the administrative judge, and so she has other judicial duties that take up her time. But coming in at 84%. Is in fact the highest clearance rate in the county, the 184th, Judge Anastasio. That's really good.
With no asterisk.
Huh? Without
With
an
no
asterisk, yeah. So total, she's had in the 184th, 667 incoming cases, 887 within the last 3 months disposed of. That's a clearance rate of 133%. She's clearing more cases in her court that are coming in.
Yeah. She's at 7% in 0 to 30 days. I hope those are good things for defendants.
The other high clearance rate at 130% is the 174th, Judge Robert Johnson.
What's the percentage?
130%. He's clearing more cases than come in too. Coming in at
figure out how that
109%.
works.
Oh, coming in at 109% is the 209th.
Okay.
Coming in at 100% is the 228th. Not too bad. Coming in at 103% is 263rd. Coming in at 104% is the 339th. So we have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 courts out of all the district courts are actually clearing more cases than are coming in. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
I guess. And
Right. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, they're not. The 338's not in there, so that doesn't mean it means they're not sitting all in Harris County Jail. So they're, whatever's resolving the case is not locking them up, I guess. But it's interesting, you know, like the judges who've been getting the scrutiny in the news and about the politicians in Austin, none of those names are mentioned, right?
Right.
Like as ones who are getting people out of jail and have low case counts of people who are in custody. None of those people were mentioned. Judge Glass, Judge Morton, you know, so it seems like a little bit potentially, if you're looking at numbers, it almost seems unfair that they're getting the kind of negative scrutiny that they are from the news and the Houston Police Officers Union and all that.
I agree.
It almost seems political.
Well, you know, and two things. A, it's political. Yes, it has to be. And because some of the best judges are getting just hammer timed in the news and in the media, and that's not fair.
Right.
And the people, and here's the problem. All these figureheads, they can talk. They're playing politics, and they can talk and bully pulpit and say whatever they want to say, to spin it in the media and do whatever they want. However, if you're a judge, if you take your position seriously, you can't say anything. Your judicial canon of conduct requires you to keep your mouth shut, and they just have to turn the other cheek. And that ain't right. It ain't right.
Well,
go for it.
maybe what's not right is the attacks that they're getting. Maybe it's not bad that the judge can't go out there and defend themselves. But I do worry that the way that they defend themselves is from the bench and by trying to prove something or compensating. Right?
I didn't think about that. Do we see that?
I haven't seen that in the ones that we've discussed. You know, that's why those judges are pretty tough, because they have to keep their mouths shut. They can't go defend themselves. And I'm not seeing like a change in their behavior necessarily. Right? In fact, I've seen some judges who are getting dragged through the mud in the media and by politicians in Austin, and they were all of a sudden like maybe even a little bit more friendly towards some things that I was asking for with clients with bond conditions. So I've seen the reverse be true, but that would be my concern, right? Since they can't go get on the bully pulpit, that they get on the bench pulpit, so to speak, and they just try to rule in a way that takes the air out of the sails of their naysayers.
So I just learned that associate judges are coming out. The county is hiring associate judges, and the post goes out tomorrow. Who's gonna apply?
The job posting goes out tomorrow?
Yeah, I wonder how much they make. Any of y'all, his and her honors watching, who has inside info, let us know how much they're gonna make. And what are some of the qualifications?
Yeah.
Would you go into being an
would be.
Well, and what are their I wonder if the qualifications for an associate judge are the same for being a visiting judge. Because I believe you need 8 years experience to be a visiting judge. Oh, by the way, really quick.
I think we're going to get some answers.
Jen Gott just said the 482nd took approximately 100 cases from each court.
Okay. So it's about 5% of Judge Johnson's docket and about 3%, 2%.
Kobe DeBose says
1.5%.
Kobe DuBois
of
says
338.
he'll go to bat for anyone. He'll work for the highest bidder. True mercenary. No, true. No, I'm kidding. The guy's on a streak. I think Kobe's gotten like the last 90 out of 92 cases dismissed, from what I understand.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's what I understand.
Sounds like he's worth it all. So we just had Judge Jason Luong like zooming in. Is he coming? Oh, there he is.
Judge.
He's coming back in. Keeps going in and out. And now, like, I see me into infinity. Anyway.
Justin, that's where you belong.
Yeah, just gone forever.
No. It's beyond.
Oh, in the beyond.
Well, like here forever.
Yeah, let's hope not.
You ever think about when you're on the record that, you know, all your closing arguments, all your opening statements, you know, those are going to be there forever. I don't know, I think that's
unfortunately, yeah.
I think it's kind of cool. Judge, we're trying to get you on. Where are you at, Your Honor?
Come on, Judge Luong, where are you? Come answer some questions. Educate us.
I wonder, you know, to be an associate judge, I believe you have to have, or a visiting judge, you got to have to have been a judge for 8 years. And an associate judge, I'm not sure what the qualifications for that.
Maybe Judge Luong can tell us.
Kobe says just inception. That's great. Judge, how are you, sir?
Good. I think I got this to work. I'm trying to get on. Okay.
We can hear you.
Let's talk numbers. Do you remember the show The Wire?
Oh, I love The Wire. I just started watching it again.
Of course.
You remember about how they would just juke the stats, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The obsession we have with numbers, I don't think you guys have talked, maybe I missed it. What about the prosecutors, right? If you look at that clearance rate number, if you look at like 185th, like over the 1 year period, the clearance rate was low, but the last 3 months it's been high. What's one of the reasons? I've gotten 2 new chiefs, right?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Of that aspect. Well, we had a new chief, and then they switched out another chief, and now we're cooking with gas. And we don't talk about how does the judge control the cases, right? Because the way they used to do it in the past, I don't think I'm saying any secret, that oftentimes we revoke people's bonds, or not we, but the prior judges would revoke people's bonds for being 5 minutes late twice, right? Do you remember the days when they would revoke people's bonds for being late to court twice, even if the line around the building was around the building?
Yes.
Well, but sir, everyone else in this courtroom got here on time, so I don't understand why you couldn't. And I see here you were late last time too. So you know what? Go ahead and go with my bailiff. Go with my bailiff. No, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Your children will have to just like get off the bus and like eat breadcrumbs if they get thrown out by the neighbors. Go with the bailiff.
And we had judges who revoke people's bonds without hearings, right? That was, you tested positive while on bond. Okay, take him to custody. I had a case before a judge that I like in most aspects. We provided polygraph that he can use drugs in 30 days. But they tested him like his 20th day on his first bond. Still revoked his bond. Judges don't have the power to dismiss cases. I have DAs now finally dismissing cases. I said, you guys need to dismiss this case 6 months ago or a year ago, right?
Right.
So I appreciate the work that a lot of these folks are doing, but there's only so much judges can do to control their dockets. Especially with the old hammer they used to have is trials. But I can't control the case goes to trial, right? Because now you go to NRG, you know which case is going to go to trial. It's probably not going to be your case because the length of the case, whether on bond, where before you could randomly put everyone on trial and go, I may pick the one that's number 6 on the list. So the states, that's when they have to kind of decide to dismiss. So
I remember when you got the initial move. In my head, I was like, "Ooh, that's an inside job. That's an inside job," because that particular chief does. I hadn't seen her dismiss a case in 10 years. I don't know how long she's been a lawyer. I hadn't seen her dismiss a case in forever, and it was moved to your court. And I was like, no. That's an inside job.
Hard to figure out what happens because
Hey, Judge, real quick. Is there any chance that whatever device you're using, you can turn it 90 degrees so we can have the wide view?
Like
It's not gonna. No, that's not going to work. Never mind. You're just sideways. Go back.
Well, can you email me? Let me see if I can email myself the link so I can use my computer. Hold on.
In the interim, so Jen got
That works right there. But you're right. Like I sat here and I said we should not like judge judges and courts by the numbers, and because these numbers can be juked, as you said, and as the wire shows us, I don't like doing that. And you're absolutely right that one way to really judge how things are going in the whole courthouse is to look at DA clearance rates, look at DA numbers, and and I did say that about intake. And if you want to build a study, not just trends of crimes, I think that can be problematic, but like look at the numbers of filings and the charges that are accepted and the types. I would really like to see 10 years ago versus now, just overall numbers, because one thing that Kim Ogg promised by stop prosecuting possession of marijuana charges is that we'd see like a decrease in filings. I'd be curious to see if that's actually happened. I bet filings are at the same, if not higher, even without all the little petty weed cases that we had.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that's my big area is that about 35 to 40% of all cases that get filed, every defendant that goes to arrested presents with a mental health issue, right? They've got a with 15, 17 referral, which is a huge number. And, I talked to pretrial today. I said, okay, when we tell them to get a mental health evaluation, what do you tell them? We tell them to talk to their lawyer. I mean, there's not a connection between mental health services and the criminal court system, which has been written into the statute now, but we don't have enough resources. And so really, if you want to talk about affecting crime, this, how many assault public servant charges are based on mental health issues?
Yeah,
right?
Yes.
99 to 100%.
Yes. I mean,
and the for judiciary came out with a report maybe a year or two ago where all former judges, they looked at it and they said, if a person is having a mental health crisis and they're at a facility getting mental health treatment and they assault a police officer, to be Class A misdemeanor. Most cases I have involving public servant charges involve, and I speak generally, not about any case in my court, obviously, that they are presenting where a person is having mental health crisis. The officer who may have a good intention but may not have mental health treatment, the person acts in conformity with mental health illness, and they fight against authority. So, there's a lot of things we can talk about, and these numbers are just kind of numbers. But at the end of the day, what's the quality of justice being provided by people? Because a lot of things you don't get wrapped up in trials. Like, I saw one judge got attacked for not having trials. I may set 10 cases for trial on every day of the week, but unless JV's involved, that case isn't going to go to trial. Right? And it's fair to the state to dismiss them, and they're just going to refile it. I mean, it's a way another, juke the numbers, you dismiss it to refile it.
Right.
Or what?
Right.
So is there a problem here? And if there is, what's the solution?
Well,
is this just the way it's going to go? And we should all just stop.
Well, Rick Oliver says the new motto should be the DA will charge a ham sandwich and the grand jury will indict it. That's what he says. Judge?
Amen to that, Rick.
Well, I can't
consistent viewer. Rick's always doing on Thursdays at 8:00.
Well, there needs to be a shift, and we've talked about this, is that, before, bond violation report would go only to the judge, right? And unless the judge signed it, you wouldn't know about the bond violation. But why is a judge deciding about a bond violation without any evidence? And, for years, the judge would revoke based on an unsworn report, right? So one thing they have to do, we have to switch the judge doesn't, we have a lot of talk about judges needing to be responsible for these guys who are on bond. For us, I only know a person is charged with a template, boilerplate indictment. I don't know the facts of the case, right? So when I get a bond violation report that says this person committed, criminal mischief or whatever it is, or testing positive for drugs, you don't know the context of how serious that is.
Right.
Yet you get blamed for it. So the shift, and this is something that I think when we fund the DA's office better, they need to have people there, not just simply file a motion to revoke bond, or it's always pro forma. They file a motion to hold them at no bond, but they don't take any action in respect of it. They don't set it for a hearing, and the Article 11A, the Texas Constitution, is clear. It has to be a hearing. It has to be clear and convincing evidence. So, but no one talks about the aspect that the prosecutors are the ones who have to notify the court, and they have to move for a hearing. I found myself for the past, until we changed the system recently, I'm at midnight, emailing the party saying, hey, this guy's testing positive or he didn't have a GPS device. Let's have a hearing next week. State, call your witnesses. Make sure your witnesses are subpoenaed, because I can't subpoena the witnesses, and you can't revoke an allegation that they didn't get a GPS device, because under the rules of evidence, you can lower a bond based on hearsay evidence, but the rules of evidence apply to the revocation of a bond.
Right.
So how do you run a bond based on an unsworn report, which is hearsay?
Right.
So, but that's that's one way that you have to look at it, is that, we got to shift the way that we think about what judges are responsible for. Because, I can sort of pressure people to dismiss cases and say, hey, not ex parte communication, but you got the parties that are saying, hey, you know what? State, how are you going to prove this other than mere presence? And, the state can decide to dismiss or not dismiss. We hear a lot of talk I hear a lot of conversation with the DA about, we were focused on violent crimes and not violent crimes, but I don't know if they actually provide any kind of guidance in terms of being, hey, you have this presentment of this type of case, PCS case, just go without a green judge, redirect to the judge, let the judge decide what's going to happen. If you want to do 1244A, that's fine. But so we as judges don't have that much control. I can't give 1244A unless the DA agrees to let me do it. Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So judges' hands are tied. I appreciate the great work that Judge Anastasio has done in keeping your court in check. Mine has grown a lot, and I get criticized for it. But again, I'm hearing a court from the administrative judge who had a lower amount of cases coming to them because they were the administrative judge, right?
Right.
And I get more cases to my court because of Veterans Court. But
oh, snap. I didn't even think about that. I didn't know that they take that into consideration.
Well, you get more cases, and same with Rick Court. Those cases get transferred to your court from the home court. So you get, it's not necessarily a huge amount, but it's a significant amount. But it's too long an explanation to explain to people how that works.
Right.
So it's I'm concerned about the numbers, but at the same time, because I'm curious, because I know we work hard. I know we're there moving cases, but the way the numbers come out, sometimes I'm thinking something must be wrong, because we moved 20 cases yesterday or something. We only had 2 cases come in, and the next day the number has gone up. I'm like, how did that happen? So
at the same time, I do know that when anybody goes to your court, they're gonna get heard. If they want to get heard, they're gonna get heard, and that is always refreshing. In the sense of, we're gonna have a hearing, you're gonna listen, we're gonna talk, and quite frankly, until we get to a point where that needs to happen in your court, we're not wasting any time in your court. So, for example, there's courts where I know I'm going to go to this court and I'm going to spend an hour in here, and I don't have that on my docket to do right now. So I'm going to go to this court last, or at this particular time, or I'm going to plan for this. I know that if I'm in your court, I can text your coordinator or I can email the coordinator. If I have no business and the case is early on, I'm just going to take care of your case first. And when I need to address something, or when the case gets old enough to the point where something has to be talked about, we're going to have to approach, and you're going to hear everything that's going on, and we're going to have a hearing, or we're going to do whatever duties that we need to. And so I do think that could contribute to the numbers. There's all sorts of context behind those numbers that I guess that it's not showing at all.
Right.
No, it really, it's random luck what defendant in your court ends up doing something terrible, because every court has cases where guys on a UUMV charge and then he pick up a capital murder. Who would have thought that would have happened, right?
Right.
Or it's a random act that you can't contain, because the cost of what a lot of people are saying, how do you release these people on bonds? No one talks about bonding companies. You have to make 20%. Now it's down to 5%.
It ain't nothing, dude.
Right.
Pardon me, Judge. Sorry. I was just talking about it. I'm telling you, these bonding companies now will take a ring and a signature and for your soul for a $50,000 bond. I'm not kidding. Just
I don't talk about bias in the media, but it really has become bias against judges because as a comparison story, like we had a guy. I remember seeing a story about somebody committed a really serious crime, and Judge Mark Brown sitting in for someone set a high bond, right? Even though in another context it would have been, I can't believe the judge set that guy a bond. Like it because they know who are Republicans. I really feel there's a slant based on party affiliation, right? And I got criticized in the news like a couple months ago, but then I think they looked at it and realized that the bond he was on, that we committed a crime on, was an agreed to bond by the state.
Sure.
So a lot of these things happen that there's so much context to it. And you're right, but it's hard to explain that. Bonding companies now take sometimes 1%, right? I mean, how does a guy make $1,000 bond?
I
I couldn't
agree.
make that. But now they're getting out like paying $2,500.
Yeah.
That's just on a plan, $2,500, right? So they say when they tell you they can't pay fees because they're on a payment plan, they're on a payment plan to pay the 5% that they had down. So they're really only coming in with maybe a couple $100 to get out.
Yep.
It's nuts.
Right.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't understand
That's a
how
fair criticism. Like, why are bonding companies being dragged through the mud? Because bonding companies, whatever they work out, 1%, 5%, a ring in your soul, sign on the line, like they're getting them out of jail too. If pretrial services isn't,
and
mama or grandma will put their house up, bonding companies are getting them out.
And what's happening is these individuals who are charged, right? They get on this bond, and then these bonding companies are, you call them like, hey, I can't get a hold of my client. Like, where are they? And they're like, well, we don't have a good number for him, so sorry. And then that's it. They're not. I remember in the old days, if a court or a lawyer, primarily a court, called a bonding company and said, hey, get your guy here, they would bring him. And I'm not saying all bonding companies are like that, because there are a few. I'm not saying that there are, because there are some very, very good, solid, reputable bonding companies. There are. But just like everything else, any other profession, the ones that are bad are really bad. And then they jump off your bond. They just take a little money and then jump off your bond.
You're thinking of the movie Midnight Run with Robert De Niro?
Yeah.
The bonding guy taking the accountant back to testify. Anyways.
Yeah.
No,
I was thinking Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Yeah.
What was the deal with him? Wasn't he in the news recently?
He's looking for that guy, isn't he? Like the fiance.
Oh, they're never finding that guy. They're never finding that guy.
Alligators got him.
I mean, here's the real. I mean, the real issue is separating the really people we're scared of versus the people who are just making bad decisions, right? Because I mean, majority of people on our criminal cases are just people making the bad decision, mental health, or whatever it is. I mean, you just have to sit through one doc to see there's a theme going on in every criminal court, which is it's the same story. Underprivileged people using drugs or self-medicating or whatever it is, getting into fights that are technically a criminal case, but really they could be treated differently,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Sometimes an assault family member is technically a member of the household, but really the law may be better suited towards focusing on domestic violence, right? Rather than I beat up my brother. This is the second time I beat up my brother.
Right.
But even with probation, for example, they've changed the way probation is working. Now, what we do in specialty courts really should apply to all probationers, which is, in vet court, you're talking about the most disciplined, highly trained. The government has already spent hundreds of thousands of dollars training these people. They don't always perform perfectly either on bond or on probation, but we don't immediately lock them up. Why do we expect that a person who's committed a crime who was not perfect to begin with would suddenly become perfect on bond? And then we convict them by putting them into jail because they have a minor violation like a drug. They test positive for marijuana, right? I mean, and then that person ends up pleading out because they're in custody, right? This happens a lot in misdemeanor courts, whatever. So even probation now, their belief is that, we're not there to be hall monitors and catch every violation. We're here to go, hey, what can we do to help you so that you can address this problem, right? They're more like they're coaches now. I mean, I'm not making this up. This is what people in the department have told me. It should apply to for 75% of cases where the people, if you're just more encouraging to people, they would perform better, right? Rather than being bombastic or the strict disciplinarian. Not that some people don't deserve to have strict disciplinarianisms, but for most people, for the vast majority of people, they all conform with their bond conditions, and now we're expecting them to pay for bond conditions for years.
Sure.
There's a
Right.
financial aspect of that. So we start locking out all these people, like for the 1 out of 1,000 that causes a problem, you have 999 people who are going to have their lives messed up, who then become their kids' lives are messed up, and then we pay all this social money to supporting them on the back end for their kids who their father's in jail. Now they're getting public assistance. That kid's life, he doesn't perform as well in school. There's all these hidden costs that you don't see because we're scared of a couple of bad people, and we can't monitor them well enough because we're worried about the 99% of people who are doing something dumb like, oh, I went at 2:00 in the morning to go get a hamburger and I violated my GPS condition, right?
Right.
Or something like that.
Bailiff,
So-
take him in. Take him in, bailiff.
Yep.
And that also, there's a bailiff shortage. A lot of courts only have one bailiff
I've noticed that. What's going on with that?
because it's, the whole system, it becomes more and more difficult. I don't know how to explain that part of the bailiff system, except that we need to recruit more people. We need to have more people go into the bailiff system, but it's just also, I don't know, administrative casework
Well,
that they have to do.
Last week, I think we talked about, was it last week? The
The lawsuit?
the jailers, and I guess that's including the bailiffs, are suing the county because they're underpaid, underrepresented, like not.
No, it's the whatever, something working conditions.
I'm gonna say jailers sue.
Poor working
Harris
conditions.
County.
They
Well,
wanted 500 more staff.
Harris County
But I
jail
don't know that
employees.
included. That was just correctional officers. It was jail employees. I don't know if that included bailiffs. I mean, that'd be interesting if it does. But I have been noticing a lot lately. There's just one bailiff per courtroom. I saw in a court last week there was a plea going on, and the defendant and his attorney were in front of the bench, and usually the bailiff goes and stands up there. Bailiff had to go like use the restroom or something, step out for something. He had the CLO stand up there to
Well-
like kind of cover in case the defendant lost their mind in front of the judge. But yeah, I've noticed a bailiff shortage.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, there's a lot of, we just need to put, not just pour money to the system, but use it in a way that's more effective,
Well, and you mentioned that. You said, the DA's office needs more funding so that they can do these 11A hearings. Like, that's not one thing that I've heard Kim Ogg say she would use more money for.
I don't
Right?
know.
I mean, so
If she's approached the commissioner's court to get more funding, and
sure,
they
but
don't.
I've never heard it say because we need to like not be spread
Administer
so thin
justice
we
fairly?
can focus prosecutors on administering justice. It's been more like so we can just like have more prosecutors to vet these cases and take these cases in. I haven't heard like focus on bond hearings or bail review.
Well, there's, like Gomez creates a difficult position for judges because it creates this kind of where if I find it to be inadequate, I can raise the bond without a hearing or without evidence. But if it's a revocation, then you have to have a hearing. But if you're going to revoke bonds, which 75% of them are new law violations, right? We all think they did it. I mean, I'm sure that's what the mindset was. But if prosecutors in their voir dire will tell you the fact that a person is charged with a crime is no evidence of a crime, why is it not the same with respect to a bond violation? Why is the clear crime not evidence that they violated their bond? Yet they use it as
That's
evidence.
exactly right.
Preach.
But statute makes it clear you have to have a hearing. Have you ever had any prior to 2018 or 2019? Have you ever had a bond violation hearing? No, not even pro forma.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
We had to have CLEs on how to conduct them. Like, we were like, okay, you need the rules of evidence here. You need, this is the Texas Constitution, if you've ever heard of it.
And just to be clear, the law didn't change in 2018 and 2019. We just started kind of reading it better.
Now I need a hearing. I want a hearing.
Apply it. Because I agree. It would be faster if I didn't have to have a hearing, or if I could say, look, spend 10 days in jail because that's a good sanction to make you fly right. But that's not the statute. And, I think I think most other judges have the belief that, if the law is broken, if I apply it incorrectly to get around the problem, the law will never be fixed. Right. So apply it the way it's written so that we can see how bad the law is. Right. Because we find ourselves we have a hearing date every Thursday at 1:00, a hearing docket. And it's tiring, but that's what the law requires. And that helps everyone, including the DA's office, think, okay, we don't have to have a hearing for every time they violated GPS. Maybe we do something else. So, and we wait for real law violations to occur versus being minor law violations. Same thing with defense counsel. They don't want to do it. They know their client is committing new offenses and they're not getting paid for the new offenses anyways, because no, the system needs to work the way it's supposed to work. So we see what the true cost is so we can reform it.
If you had,
I've had some in misdemeanor court where we've actually had the hearing on the revocation. The judge, after a hearing under the rules of evidence, the judge has granted it and revoked the bond, ordered the person into custody. Then I've turned right around and moved under Rule 9.1 or whatever the new local rule is, moved for a PR bond, and the judge has granted it right then and there. And the pretrial services comes out and walks them over, and the DA's like, first after the DA's head explodes and they mop it all up, they're like, what did we just spend all this time doing? And the judge is like, you filed a motion to revoke the bond. Justin said before you do that, you have to have a hearing. So we had a hearing on it. I granted it based on the clear and convincing evidence that you presented. But then I'm also bound to grant a PR bond because it's a non-violent offense and it meets all the other statutory requirements. So I'm granting them a PR bond. And the prosecutors, and then we did the same thing the next week. And those prosecutors, I was like, y'all know what's going to happen, right? Like the same thing that happened last week's going to happen today. We're going to finish the hearing. Even if I lose or my client gets taken into custody, I'm going to move for a PR bond, and my client's going to get right back unhooked. Like,
yeah, but
I don't think the bailiff will finish clicking the handcuffs.
Sometimes, Justin, it's about the principle.
Apparently, that's all it's about to the DA.
It's incredible. It's incredible, Judge. In this we have about 5 minutes left. Jen Gott earlier said that some of the new administrative judges the salary. It's going to be posted tomorrow, from what I understand. The hearing officers are supposed to make about $131,000 a year salary, I guess. And the questions that we had, and maybe you can answer, maybe you don't, but what do we know what their duties are going to be, or what the scope of them will be?
With the associate judge make $134,000.
131 is what the live wire says on the.
Does it allow the associate judges to also moonlight? Because I'm at associate judge plus like a realtor. I don't know. Does it work?
Hey, there's some that do that.
No, I think.
What can you tell us about that? Any job requirements, anything like that?
I think they kept it as broad as possible so they can figure out what they want to do. I don't think I'm not on that committee that does it. But I think they're going to try to keep it as broad as possible because, frankly, I don't, 95% of all cases resolve in pleas. I mean, you need just everyone just all the DAs need to knuckle down and really review these cases, right? I mean,
I would hate to see, Judge. So, and this is just my 2 cents, unsolicited. So you get an email the day before, and it says instead of you have to be in the emergency docket in the middle of your like your docket tomorrow that wasn't pre-planned. You got to be in emergency docket at 10 o'clock. And you're like, dude, come on, Tremisha, I got a full docket tomorrow, and now I have to be here at 10 in the morning and deal with the problem case that we all know it's a problem case. And even though we have a setting, 3 months from now on this thing, I would hate it, Your Honor, to then also get an email saying your presence is requested in the associate judge's, court as well at 10:45. And so now we're doing e-dockets. Now we're emergency dockets, associate judge dockets, and regular dockets, and everybody's wanting you to be at the same place at once. It's just, please, no more. We can only take so much.
JV's doppelgangers at NRG picking a jury, right?
How are we going to do that? I will tell you. I will tell you, part of the reason I'm loving being in trial is because you can't be anywhere else. It's like, I'm in trial. Sorry, you can't touch me.
Frankly, they just need to have. I mean, if I have I guess I can address it because it's not a case dealing in my court. They should just have a group of seasoned prosecutors. Look at the cases and decide, like, hey, these, 100 cases in this court, these are all BS. Let's get rid of them.
Just cut them.
you
That
know?
would be political suicide for Judge Ogg.
What? No,
I mean, Judge
I
Ogg,
don't.
DA
No,
Ogg.
it's the right. He's like, look, let me help you review these cases because they did this. They did this recently with all the cases. They had a lot of prosecutors look at to get rid of to-be warrants that were old,
Yeah.
But they're just a bunch. I mean, we had cases where the father beat up the son because he was living in his house, but he came back too late after curfew. I mean, are we really going to prosecute this case? Are we really going to try this case?
Felony.
I don't think so.
Felony.
Well,
Injury to a
I bet
child.
he didn't like beat him up in
Serious
the sense
bodily
that we're, like,
injury.
evoking memories, but just like, hit him. And then probably when the guy was like 20, he had a fight with his girlfriend 30 years ago, and he had that prior case, and now it's a felony.
One of
Yeah,
the
I'm having cases where the judges are finding no probable cause not because of political things, but because there is not probable cause stated in the four corners of the dim summary, and they're on a misdemeanor case, and the DA's running off to the grand jury.
Yeah, well,
I'm just
Justin,
like-
that's not how we do things in Harris County, okay?
Right.
Well,
I'm just
and
playing devil's advocate.
it's unfortunate because and that's the thing with COVID for the last year and a half is that I know the prosecutors are trying, and I know they all have, generally speaking, good intentions, but a lot of prosecutors who are twos have tried less than 5 cases.
That's incredible, and they're up there in felony courts, and it just boggles my mind.
And they may become chiefs in a
Yeah,
little bit.
it's like you know how to evaluate a case.
And frankly, it's funny. I see a lot of these old chiefs that are now defense lawyers, and they're really good. And the thing is, it's true. You're much better if you do defense work because you get to see, okay, this is really a waste of resources, right, or whatever it is. But there's no way you can't force a prosecutor to work as a defense lawyer for a couple months or anything. But the lack of real, and you can't. I don't know how you saw this. They can't go to trial. I mean, it's just we're trying to, but you're limited capacity. They just need more global view about things because sometimes, in Carvana Cloud, when she was there, she used to talk about there's a difference between people who commit domestic violence who are characterological versus being situational, right? There are people who just get into a fight with their girlfriend, their girlfriend pushes their buttons and they hit, they lost their temper. They did something wrong, but it's not the same as a person who's a serial abuser.
Right.
Who's controlling you. This has been the ongoing problem for 2 years, and on the wrong circumstances, he's going to kill you. But they treat everyone as the serial killer abuser.
Right.
Judge Luong, 185th. He's a great colleague and even an amazing judge. Judge, you have any final 30 seconds? Say. You have anything you want to say before we wrap out?
I mean, that every judge is trying to keep our community safe, and we are. And so I appreciate everyone in reading and looking behind just the simple prima facie, but every judge is doing their best. We need to provide more mental health services in Harris County. That really is the truth. More mental health services.
Judge Jason Luong, 185, JV, Justin Harris for the Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association. Thank you so much. Hasta luego.
Hasta
Thanks,
mañana.
guys.